All right, if we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. So we're good online, Dr. D'Angelo. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We're looking for an approval of the present agenda. May I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. We're going to open this up to public comment. Now, we're doing public comment a little bit differently than we've done over the last few years, where we always had or in recent history, we've had public comment on the agenda specifically first, and then at the end of the meeting, we have public comment open for any business at all. We're going to reverse that because it occurred to us that, well, we hadn't done the agenda yet, so how can you comment on what you haven't heard? So we're going to have public comment open. It does not have to be agenda specific if there is any comment at this point. Anything online?
There are currently 3 connected, but no one indicating that they'd like to speak.
Okay, going once, twice. All right. Moving on to board comment. All right, Marianne, I know I overheard you saying that you had just been to the to an event.
Yes. The girls' soccer game, we were triumphant. It was a wonderful game, very exciting. I was glad I got a chance to see it. Mike, what was the final score? I forgot.
4-1.
All right, 4-1. So what does this mean next? We go on, I'm sure.
So go to the semifinals on Saturday up in Mechanicville. We'll probably play Waterford.
Okay. What are our odds?
They're the #1 team in the state, so it'll be a challenge.
It's gonna be good. It's a good
Yes,
game.
it will.
All right.
Yes, it's good.
Trust those girls.
Hmm.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. We have no student representative this evening. We're gonna skip right over that, which brings us to school board recognition.
Superintendent's reports.
Superintendent's reports. Oh, yes, right. Superintendent's reports is a big one. Yeah.
So the first in order here, last week was school board recognition week. So it was a week in between our two board meetings. So we'd like to pause and on behalf of the students and staff and the administration, I'd like to thank all of the board members for their voluntary service to the district. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Reno, who will provide a small token of the district's appreciation.
Hello. So I had a conversation with some 5th graders during a lunch one day, and I explained to them that we were going to provide some presents to the Board of Education this year. And I said, what do you think we should do? And one of the students came up with a great idea. He said, well, I imagine they have a lot of stuff to carry around. So how about we get them tote bags for all the books they must read? So I said, well, that's a great idea. So we made you all tote bags. I know Deb sent out a survey to all of you asking what your favorite things were. So I'm going to hold them up so you can see and tell you who made them. So this is for Dr. Rude.
Oh,
This has a lot of
They're
baking stuff on
personalized.
it. And this is by Ava.
that's
She
nice.
made that one for you. You're welcome. And this is Dr. D'Angelo's.
We even get
Wait,
And
which-
this- I
which
know, we
grade
did it
was
for
this?
Everybody.
Which grade?
5th
was
grade.
5th grade?
And this was designed by Althea. We know that you're quite the tool person.
Oh
these
my
days.
goodness.
So this is for you to carry all your stuff around.
Oh. For the record, this is the first time I've ever been recognized during Board Appreciation Week.
Did I get good points for that?
Yes.
This is for Mr. Chuddy. We all know that he absolutely loves fish. And the person who did this apparently knew that, Juniper. So she didn't even blink an eye when she knew she had to make these nice fish for you.
It's the Halloween costume.
Mr. Fish, this was done by Chloe. She made some mountains and some outdoor stuff and a nice paw print on the back for you. They're all watching online, so that
Oh.
this one
Thanks, kids.
is for Mr. Spencer. This was made by Caden, and I know he's not here tonight, but he did some nice, really cool architecture on there. So I'll leave this with Deb. Mrs. Faxon, of course, we had to put some tap dancing on there for you. This is for you. And this was made by Haven. You're welcome. Mrs. Hover, this was made by Jackson. I believe it's sports for your grandkids. Mrs. Friedman, this was made by Althea, and we went with the same theme. I think your kids play these sports, yes? That's really cool in the back, isn't it? You're welcome. Oh, how sweet. Mr. Hutchinson, this was made for you by Bryce. We have some really cool mountains on the back and then some school stuff and sports stuff on the front for you.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Serena.
They all have their names inside. Our Jenna's not here, but we made her one, class of 2024. I'll leave that. And who does that leave here? Miss Puro, let's see. And yours was made by Clara Rossman. Where are you? There you are. She's got some really cool stuff on here. Golf and so there you go. Thank you very much for all you do. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Such an
Immediate
appropriate
use.
practical gift. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Reno. And yeah, we'll make sure the kids know that too. I have a very brief update. One of the events that has occurred since our last meeting, I had mentioned it was going to take place, but it actually did on Monday, the 16th. The entire staff came together after an early dismissal for some professional development that included a reunification exercise. You heard me mention before that reunification is something that occurs when we are unable to dismiss our students from campus or transportation is not available. So it would likely be an extraordinary event. That day had two objectives. One, to allow our staff to be more familiar with what reunification was all about and how to conduct a reunification, giving them some practical time to actually see it in action. But also it's part of a larger initiative being headed up by the Capital Region, or I'm sorry, not Capital Region, Questar 3 Health and Safety Services, in terms of trying to get a regional reunification team together. So the notion is if any one district is in need of a reunification, we understand that they may not be in the position to provide their own personnel. So surrounding districts and Questar 3 would come together to help other districts reunify their students. So that was a 3-hour event that started out with a pretty extensive briefing about what reunification is and the different roles that are required to reunify students with their parents. There's a lot that goes into verifying that parents have the right parent has the ability to pick up their kids, and how we are sensitive to situations where students may not have come over to the reunification site from the impacted site, and what would happen in terms of victim services. And it was quite extensive. And then we went for about an hour and a half. We went through an actual reunification exercise. There was something called the standard reunification method that has been developed by a foundation called the I Love You Guys Foundation, which we were able to actually use. And it has, fake student names, fake parent names, and it allows you to go through an exercise. And then we reassembled in the auditorium to do some questions and answers and debrief on the event. So I was very pleased with the day overall. I've had positive feedback. It's not something I see us doing every year, but I feel confident that now that we've done one, our entire staff and administrative team at least understands what goes into the logistics and of actually reunifying students. So every time we do one of these things, you've heard me mention, we learn something new. In that debriefing, we had some great questions from our staff, and we certainly will use that moving forward. So that's what we had going on last week. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rue to give you an update on academics.
All right, just a couple brief things. One, a shout out to Elizabeth Pegarella. I always say her last name wrong. She's our computer science teacher. We presented, I say we loosely, she did most of the presenting a couple weeks ago for computer science for New York State in conjunction with Siena College. We were part of a panel that included a couple other school districts that are very forward thinking in computer science. And she's a tremendous asset to our team. Super, super proud of her in everything that she does. A shout out to Mr. Jeff Artist, who's here. He is the chair of our professional development committee. He's also well on his way to becoming a leader, and that's exciting. So we are actively planning the professional development day on the 7th. So we have a nice offering that's slated for that day. I've mentioned several times that we have changing demographics in this district, that for a while there, it was almost every week we were bringing in new students, and in many cases, in some cases rather, these were students that were English language learners. And what we're coming to find out is, I like to look at it as like a positive disruptor, that we really weren't set up to understand the needs of our English language learners. And specifically, we're finding that we're having an increased number of students come in who are missing formal instruction. So they're referred to as SIFE students. But they're students who might have come to the United States, and the last time, say they're in 9th grade, and maybe the last time they were in formal school was 6th grade. So we're really, I can't say enough about our building principals, our TESOL teachers, our counselors. Everyone's coming together to really think about what is our entry process for those students, and how should that look? How could that look? And that's ongoing. We're going to have some time dedicated on the professional development day to bring a lot of our professionals together to try to map out a different system of entry for our students. This past week, last week, we met with all of our teacher leaders. So our entire leadership team came together along with our teacher leaders, and we came together under Kate Gerard's fantastic facilitating, and we worked together and introduced a shared problem of practice on attendance. So we are focusing through January collectively together on attendance, and we're in a data mining phase right now, but we're following the tenets of improvement science, and those improvement science is something that last year Kate Gerard, myself, Justin Plasky, Rachel Trank, last person I'm missing.
Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan High School.
And we all went to the Carnegie Foundation, and that is a follow through of that work. So that's we got started on that work last week. We are really very grateful to have board goals. So from these board goals, I've worked with the leadership team to put together all of our stuff. We have lots of stuff. We have the board goals, we have all of our priorities and initiatives and buildings, and we're working on a one-pager that really unifies everything together, so that it's a sort of like our story in a page. I gave Sal a draft a bit late today. It's a little messy, but it's almost there. And the last update that I have for you is regarding the National Equity Project. And there are 5 of us on the team, and we are this week and into next week, we will be conducting some select student empathy interviews. So we're really just, we're each focusing on about 5 or 6 students, and we're trying to target some different types of student, if you will. And we're starting with those empathy interviews in preparation for attending a summit next week, and that will be with all the consortia schools. So there's gonna be a lot to come back to for that. So lots of stuff happening in our space, and I just wanted to give you a little taste of it.
And now we'll turn to Mr. Chuddy, see if he has any management items. And we do have one,
Can we?
oh, yeah, I want to ask questions first.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's,
yeah.
maybe there's
Yeah.
some questions
Sure.
on,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, how do you get the students, how are the students approached to be interviewed?
So we're just starting that process, and we're all focusing on students that we have relationships with currently. So there's a teacher, a building leader, Kate Gerard, myself, and a community representative on our committee. So I work with a lot of 504 kiddos. So one of the things that I'll be doing over the next 2 days is, well, all of us are following the protocol of we're reaching out first to parents and saying, we'd like to have a conversation with your child. And it's really simple questions. The questions are things like, what do you see as a success in school? Like, have you been successful? The questions are better. I'm doing these from memory. So, and second question is something like, what's a challenge that you've had? We have a question that's aimed at belonging, in terms of like, do you feel a sense of belonging in the school, right? So it's really, I think we have 3 questions that we're asking, and it's meant to be a 20-minute conversation at most, where we're not collecting any, we're not marking any names on anything. It's really just to give a first blush. And we want to do a much more expansive listening tour, but we have to think about and learn from the process of, we have coaches from the National Equity Project that to learn from the experience of interviewing and figure out what tweaks we need to make, and how to help each other in that process. So our community member, we're partnering up with one of our English language learning teachers. She's fluent in Spanish. So we're excited that we can talk to some of our kiddos just completely in Spanish. So all of them, we are just giving a little bit of a nod first to parents to say, you know, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing. And you know, if there was any opposition, then we wouldn't. And so we're doing a very small number. There's about 5 of us. We're each going to do about 5 kiddos. We're going to take that information and then learn from that process in order to scale it up.
Thanks.
Your, the National Equity Project, that's
Yep.
the program you introduced us to like 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 meetings ago.
No, but they're related.
Okay.
Because they're both, so several weeks ago, or a couple board meetings ago, the American Institutes of Research came
That's the
in.
one who came with Dr. Wilcox?
Yes,
Okay.
their focus is on sort of the after effects of the pandemic, but with diversity at the core of it. And the National Equity Project is taking the work that we've done with the American Institutes of Research, and it's hyper focused for us, and developing our own skills and leadership within our school to take those efforts forward.
You mentioned the SIFE students earlier.
You mentioned that what?
SIFE students earlier, the students
Yes,
with interrupted
yeah.
formal education. Is that, I mean, what are we looking at in trend for that, or is it too early to tell? Or
It's new to, I say it's new. Columbia County is experiencing a rise in SIFE students.
right?
So there's several things that are happening sort of all at once. Auburn is putting out some sessions. There's a session in a couple of weeks that several of us are participating in, specifically aimed on the intake of SIFE students and what those assessments look like. And but we're we're really we're starting to connect with some other school districts and looking at, as an example, pathways for SCIF students in high school.
Mhm.
So we've got some partnerships that are started there. I'm also, it's not directly well, it's SCIF adjacent. The program that I participated in with Clarkson for teaching English as a second language, we have several people from our district participating this year.
Mhm.
And I'm really hoping that we build on this trend of a dual certification, so that if you teach, say, science primarily, that to have that secondary skill is really helpful for us as a district and for them as an educator. So there's a lot coming that's really fast, but we're not the only ones in this spot.
Sort of a little bit of a coalition or something working.
But one of the things we noticed is and it's a learning process, is when students come in, we weren't formally interviewing to find out if they had interrupted. And once you say it, you're like, what? How could you? But the intake process didn't ask questions like that. So I look at it as a positive thing, that we're really looking at what our practice is, and being mindful. Like, it's small things, like a student comes in and they're enrolled, and free and reduced lunch is changing, but looking at what are some of the immediate needs, like counseling and food and support, that some students might have that we didn't necessarily have set up in place.
I imagine there's also some sort of a gentility or potential cultural component with some of these things too.
Yeah, we are extremely lucky. We have Ann Knapp is retired, and she is an absolute rock star. She was with us last year helping with our English language learners, and she was at the elementary school. This year, she's at middle school, high school, and she's fearless in advocating for kids. We have Allie, our new TESOL teacher at the elementary school. There's this great synergy that's coming together. Mike Stead too, is over there. He's very passionate and active in this space as well. So there's some great synergy that, frankly, we can learn a lot about all of our students from examining this process.
Great.
So just a little bit, in case you picked up on a couple alphabet soups, as
Yes.
Lisa used to like to, Arborn is it's called the Regional Bilingual Educational Resource. That's a function of Questar 3. There are Arborns across the state, I think,
Yes.
correct? And Questar 3 happens to be one of the regional locations. And then you hear TESOL quite a bit, and just want to, because I have to always remind myself what it stands for. It's Teaching English to Students of Other Languages. So we used to refer to them as ENL teachers, but TESOL is the current acronym. So just so you can follow along.
Thank you.
The only before we leave, Lisa, the only other thing, and this might be more of a board thing, but something maybe to put our heads on, and if it matters. I was talking to somebody and they said one of the board goals, the first one, all students will perform at or above grade level in ELA, math, and science. So as we differentiate at the high school level, a freshman could take algebra, but they could also be taking algebra 2 or something else. So grade level becomes a little blurry in this language. I know what we intended. I don't know that we said it.
Well, so that's brought a lot of discussion throughout the whole district,
Sure.
and not that portion. That's a little new to me, but the all has gotten a lot of people nervous. And the way I've described it, and you're the board, so correct me if I'm wrong, is it's really an aspirational, as Jim Collins would say, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Whether we ever reach all will be determined, but we want to make sure that you're very clear, and I'm very clear in the interpretation of your board goals, that's our goal and our expectation. I know it makes a little teachers nervous that they're going to be judged about 100%, but it's really the vision.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I would say that if anybody at the secondary level was concerned about the grade level aspect of it, that it's really about the requisite skills in order to be successful in whatever classes they're taking.
Eloquently said.
And I don't know if I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that was our intention.
I don't disagree. I think I'm more interested in the specific types of feedback that come back to the district where they say, how do I interpret this? And we just had one piece of it here. And I think, in the same way we've been carrying around that every student, every day concept for a while now, as a board, I would, if someone in the district comes to me with a story and says, this student can't make it to grade level, I would find it difficult to justify why we're not trying to make it happen. So
yeah, but I think that's how I heard what Sal was saying, that
Yeah.
it's aspirational, like the effort to do so is there for all of our
but not theoretically aspirational, right? That we are actively pushing on all fronts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that there's not a student where we say we have no plan to push this student forward, right? We can't think of an intervention, should
Right.
not be.
Well, even like the high school students that are coming in with the interrupted formal education, I think that Lisa are really nicely articulated how we are learning to establish attainable goals along these attainable individual goals for those students along these broad board goals, and in the spirit of. So I think, yeah. Okay. All right. I just want to point those things out. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Chuddy, there's no time for your presentation. No, Mike, no, I have to let Mike in because we've got some really good news.
So just a couple things. First, I want to thank Hudson Central School District, the AD. They let us play our game last Friday. It was raining here all day, and so we had our first sectional game over there. Appreciate that. They helped out there. And then tonight, just thank the grounds crew, mowed everything this week and got everything set for the game. So that went well. So the good news is the community eligibility provision. So that's a program that's been in place for a number of years where you can offer free lunch to everybody. And typically districts that have high free and reduced rates apply for that and get that. And we actually never qualified, but they lowered the amount to 40%. And then it was actually, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, it went to 25%. So it's not our free and reduced rate. It's our direct certification rate. We're at 35%. So it's the first time we qualified. So the great news is that the state is going to subsidize the difference. So we never did this before because all our paying students wouldn't pay and we'd lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. The state stepped in, and hopefully it'll be more than a year. Hopefully it'll be for, ongoing. They're going to subsidize everyone at a free rate. So we're going to, we applied. I signed the application with Barb Murray today. I want to thank her for all her work. We had a couple webinars and we got some, did some research on that. I sent the application in today. So when we get approved, it's 30 days after approval. We'll be able to offer free meals for all students. So through this year and hopefully, I think the state, this was a new agenda item. I think I'd be surprised if they turn that back after a year. I could see this going forward. So that was wonderful news for us. Breakfast also. Yep.
I went to the legislative meeting for NISBA, and this passed as an agenda item for them to support at the legislative level, going free and reduced or free, subsidized lunches for all students. I guess my big question is, what does this mean for the charcuterie board?
They just got real popular.
Yeah.
I've got some more specific financial questions about
Sure.
this. So this is great from the perspective of there are students out there that may not be eating because they don't have change in their pockets, right? Or their parents may not have loaded a card into the system. Do we have any guess as to what's going to happen to sustainability of the program based on this?
Well, the key is
Does it-
if the state subsidizes this, that's what makes this work.
No, the sustainability, our lunch program runs at a deficit, right? Our meals program runs at a deficit. So I'm curious.
But if we get all reimbursed at free rate, we should be break even or maybe even a little money. And our deficits have been less and less. I think last year was $20,000. So it used to be 100-some thousand and we'll be able to pull that down some. But with everyone eating at the free rate, if we get
free rates higher than the retail rate?
Yeah, so free rate's $4.40.
Okay.
And right now, I think it's $3 and we get 48 cents for payer, so it's $3.48. So we're gonna make more money than normal.
So if I extend that same logic out, we'll make more money than normal, but the quality of our lunches.
There could be
you
some
speak
budget
to it?
expansion.
They've gotten better over the recent years, right? We won't lose quality on this.
No, no.
So if there is a, with concessions and everything factored, and if it seems like there's a surplus, would that work its way into, material budget expansion for the?
I'm not
Good.
anticipating a lot of surplus because as of right now, we don't pay every single bill out of the cafeteria. You know, we used to, I think we send over 100,000, but we absorb some of those costs. So schools that run in surpluses can pay for the electrical, all the stuff in the cafeteria. We've never been able to do that, obviously with the deficit. So, but if we have some money extra, yeah, we'll put it into try to make our meals the best they can be. And been very impressed with Barb's, innovation with the
It's
cafeteria.
been incredibly impressive. I'm thankful for her being here, thankfully, but clearly, but, the cost of goods is a difficult pressure on that program. So,
Yeah, I'm not, believe me, if we can get this, if they can keep this, we can keep that rate. So maybe, we used to transfer $120,000. So if we have to transfer a little bit of money, who cares? It's great,
Yep.
and everyone gets to eat. And I think this is a great step forward.
Yes.
Great.
is there a sunset built into that state funding mechanism, or is that?
We don't know any, are they going to continue it year after year? We don't know that yet. That's the wild card.
But there's no articulated sunset on it.
Well, automatically at the end of the year, it
Right.
sounds like,
It's
unless
not-
they,
right,
yeah.
it's an annual.
And the other thing is a lot of states are doing this. So I think New York's, this is their step
Yeah,
up to
and
try to copy some of the other states that offer meals to everyone.
There was such overwhelming support for this at the NISBA's legislative that I can't see a state representative who wants reelection to say no.
The application that went in, is good for 4 years. That doesn't mean the funding is there, but in terms of.
Since we
being
qualify
eligible.
now, we're eligible for the 4 years. So that would be good.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
And we'll turn it back to you.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the consensus agenda G through I as written,
Can I just make a
please?
correction? Okay, so it was pointed out to us on G7 that, hold on, let me get to it. Patty Velez's was on there twice, one for gardening club and then one for cooking and gardening club. So I did double check that, and should have been 2 separate, one for gardening club and one for cooking club. So that's what you're going to be voting on. Okay, it's a duplicate.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm sorry, we are eliminating one, or they're two
No,
separate?
It's just they're 2 separate. So it
just-
would be cooking and then gardening.
So if we just modify take gardening out of that second
Right,
one.
yep, just take
Cooking
in
club
gardening.
and gardening club. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
It's 9:05 apiece, Deb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. This sends us down to I, right, Deb? J, okay. Future agenda items. Does anybody have any future agenda items from the board?
I'm looking at these curricular advisors. It's been a few years since we talked about the clubs that exist, I guess, and we have a mix of permanent clubs or, evergreen clubs and ones that come up based on student and advisor interest. I'd love to look at them all in one place, instead of scattered or inboard agenda.
It's not a bad idea. Maybe even with an added aspect of how many students subscribe to which clubs. Is there a way to get that done?
Yeah, I think who subscribes is, can be a survey number, but it would give you certainly some context of participation. Yeah. We'll work on that.
Thanks.
Maybe sports in the same, I think all the extracurriculars really, it's not just clubs.
Yeah, actually, that's, you know, Matt, and that may be really timely. We're at a point now, where our student representative has brought up, having more and more kids become involved in the culture and activities of the school. It'd be really nice to see, you know, post-COVID, like, we've talked a couple of times this year, the session about what it looks like to come back
Mhm.
after that high, you know, that broken systemic component.
So let me, and I don't have the actual date, but it's been a while since JB's been here and given us an update on the
Yeah.
entire sporting program. We did schedule him for this school year.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I know it's between now and budget season, but where we placed him on the calendar, I'm not certain at this point.
Maybe
But-
we get a culture and participation report of sorts.
Yeah, you can ask him
Clubs
to
and
give
clubs and
us.
sports both. Yeah, yes, yeah, and like the bottom line of every sport, and if I don't know, if we really wanted to do something nice, maybe we could have representatives from students. Something.
We get these things on so many different agendas.
Yeah.
A coach, an assistant coach, and then a volunteer. We also have volunteers on many of the sports, but I'd love to see a bottom line on each sport eventually.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because we can't put it together with what we get.
No, and I think that we're hitting the ground in a lot of places financially and academically. You know, we really want to make sure that the cultural component of the school is coming back. It appears to be when we go to a game or we see the success at a baseball game or a soccer game as we have recently, football. But you know, it's about the kids, and we want to make sure that we're delivering what they want us to deliver, consistent.
So without, if an advisor has not been appointed and it's not a designated club, because there's only so many slots for that.
Mhm.
And it's not a sport, right? Is there any other extracurriculars that should be on the list?
Music. How about
So
music?
arts,
Is that not, yeah, I don't know. Are those in club slots or are they?
The advisors or
Well, how do we classify the
well, you got
extracurriculars?
student government, you get clubs, you get the arts, and you get the sports. And that kind of makes, and then academics, you know, so that kind of makes up the whole of, am I missing something? It kind of makes up the whole of the student day, you know, any given student at any given time. So maybe we break off, we know we have Shakespeare happening now. We know we have a school play that I believe is going to be announced next week.
We have 3 school plays.
The first of which is going to be announced next week, though,
You
right?
know, it's not something we need immediately. If we could
No,
put these things together and hit them after the first of the year.
yeah, maybe it's sports
sports
first,
And then music
then,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, sports clubs, music,
Yeah.
government.
Before we gel the budget would be nice.
Yeah, right. Right. So, yeah.
Okay.
If you got JB teed up, maybe we start with sports and work from there. Anybody else for future agenda items? Okay. We now have our second public comment. This one is the agenda specific item. So if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns about the agenda that we just went through, please feel free to approach the podium and say your piece. Anybody online, Sal?
There's 3 people still online, but no hands. He's there.
I think we're in robot season, isn't he?
Was your mic off on that one? That's a good line. Where's Sandy?
You're gonna compel her to talk. See? Muriel, thank you. Hang on. I'm promoting Sandy. There you go, Sandy.
That's it. That was it.
By
You guys
popular
are
demand.
terrible. So I heard, it's robot season, and indeed it is. So I just wanted to say we have 13 middle schoolers that are participating on the First Tech Challenge team, and they've been coming once a week. We've bumped it up now to twice a week because we're in active build mode. We're hoping to compete in 2 competitions in January. So that's really exciting. And the high school robotics team is coaching and they're mentoring. So they're helping the kids with building and coding. So it's really exciting to see the high schoolers working with the middle schoolers, and the excitement of the middle schoolers is really cool. And now we're up to 13 kids on the high school robotics team. We have a lot of freshmen, which is really exciting because it's important to lay the foundation and get the skills building early, so that as they progress through the years, we have a solid team that can be really competitive. So we're really excited. Robots is going. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, short of any further comment, may I have a motion to adjourn? We do not see an executive session necessary. Thank you, Matt. Got that? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I don't have my gavel thing. I've never actually used it. Meeting adjourned.